There are whispers that Barbados is facing a severe animal crisis, but you don't need me to tell you that. We're here with CEO and Director of the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary, Karen Whittaker. Her vision is to transform Barbados into a place where we treat our most vulnerable with respect and care. We're here on location in Newcastle, St. John at the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary. Karen, welcome to One on One.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The first question that I want to ask for all Barbadians, is the island facing an animal crisis?
I don't think we're facing it. I think we're in it. There is one and has been for some time. We started Ocean Acres in 2020 and it's not got any better. In fact, it's probably got a bit worse. COVID didn't help things for anything, but we are in a crisis.
Well, and would you say this is a reflection of a bigger psychological problem, perhaps?
It's a reflection of a bigger problem. To pin it down to just a psychological one is too finite. There's a lot of issues. It's multifaceted, but it is certainly a societal issue. It's not a problem with the dogs and cats. It is an issue with people, either people who are well-intentioned but struggling, or people who aren't educated enough, or simply people making the wrong choices, or people who are desperately struggling themselves. But basically it's a societal issue with many facets and takes a little bit of understanding. But just because it's hard to understand doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something about it.
Mm-hmm. You've been on the front line in terms of animal advocacy since you've been here basically in Barbados. What can we do to fix this problem that we're facing nationally?
People have got to make some changes. It's the only way. We can't just keep getting a bigger bathtub, building more pens, taking in more dogs. We've got to find a way to turn off the tap. And that, as I said, starts with people. People making different fundamental choices. People thinking a little bit differently. And that probably sounds a little bit controlling or like sort of dictating to people how they should live and what they should do. And that's not my intention at all. But it's just that I quite clearly observe and experience the repercussions of things continuing as they are. And that doesn't work. So we have to change some things. We have to have some acceptance and appreciate the situation that we're in. And we have an element of desensitization. Because things have been a certain way for so long, people are desensitized to it. It's a little bit like, perhaps as an analogy, if you go somewhere that's absolutely pristine and clean, if somebody puts a tiny bit of litter or garbage on the floor, you notice it immediately. But if you're somewhere that's quite messy, then nobody notices that. So we are desensitized to the fact that animals are chained up and starving, are dying where they are left, are walking the streets, are in packs, having puppies willy-nilly. People are desensitized to it. They say, well, that's how it's always been.
Would you say it's an issue of them not being able to afford animal care and services, or how would you pin that?
In some instances, it's an issue. Sometimes I get calls all day long. I get at least 20 calls, but more every single day from people that want help in one kind of way or another. Some of them genuinely want to do something about the situation where their dog or cat is in need of something. They know that something isn't right, but they want to make a change. And they haven't got the means to do that. They may not even have the knowledge, and they may have caused that issue inadvertently. Some people don't care at all, and some people are actively harming dogs and cats.
We say generally that Barbados is a loving and peaceful society. But this is not evident in terms of how we are treating our most vulnerable population, not the elderly or the youth, but our animals. Can you speak to that?
Yes. What I see in my daily work is not loving or kind. And that doesn't mean to say that there aren't a lot of loving and kind people out there. So I am not in any way saying that Barbadians aren't loving and kind. But what I see in the work that I'm doing is a lot of thoughtless action, a lot of things that are neglectful actions, disrespectful actions, unconscious actions, And this speaks to not just the actions towards the animals, but to the people themselves. Because if you are an abuser, either on purpose or through neglect or ignorance, what does that say of you? That is my point. It's one thing what it does to the animal, but in many cases the animal dies, so that's the end of that. But you're still you. You have still allowed that to happen. We are the guardians of these animals, as you say, the vulnerable things in our society. They are here because over time we've allowed them, we've domesticated them. We're not on the prairies of Africa. These are not wild dogs, wild animals. These are domestic dogs that we're talking about, who have chosen to live with us or amongst us for one reason or another. That's why they make such wonderful pets. It's not trying to domesticate a hyena. These are pets that have been forced for one reason or another into situations where they're not wanted, not cared for, and they've had to fend for themselves. And genetically over time, some of them developed to be a bit shy because humans haven't been nice to them. But we're ultimately responsible for them. And it's apparent we wouldn't be full. We wouldn't have all these calls all day that we can't fulfill if people were making good choices and taking care.
What do we say to that person? What do you say to that person who has 17 dogs or 8 cats and says that they love their animals and there's no way that they're going to neuter what is rightfully, their pets?
These are hard conversations to have, and I have them all of the time. And we speak to all sorts of different people, every kind of different faith, different people's sets of beliefs, people, even not everybody here that we're talking to is from Barbados. So we speak to many people about this same issue. All we can do is lay out the facts. There's different aspects to this. We can lay out the facts medically. If we're talking specifically about neutering, we can lay out the facts as to the benefits of it and the issues that they may experience if they don't do this, which I don't need to go into here, but there are definitely medical reasons why at a certain age you should neuter your pets. Then there's the other reasons, which are behavioural and to do with how they keep their pets. Because one of the issues that people have a lot is that their dogs in particular wander. So they don't keep them contained within their property, so the dogs are wandering. If they are not neutered, male dogs will always wander. They can't help themselves. So we try to give information, is what I'm saying. We try to give information so that people can see that we're not trying to tell them what to do or that their feelings are invalid, but that there are other options that they might want to consider that might solve some of their other problems. And we also explain to them the knock-on effects that their actions are having on other people. Because it's one thing if you say, look, I want to have 26 dogs and I'm going to keep them here and that's that. If you can do that and keep them well and healthy and not interfere with anybody else, then I don't suppose that's an issue. But your 26 dogs are soon going to turn into hundreds of dogs. And then you'll be calling me up saying, well, I've got these puppies and what am I supposed to do? And so we have to think ahead. We have to think ahead. And those dogs or cats that this person has got, they have to take responsibility. It's about responsibility. And people sometimes say to me, oh, I love puppies, I love kittens. But that's fine, but they're not kittens for very long, are they? And then you've brought more beings into this world that are not only dependent totally on you and can you provide for them, but they may be going off to cause nuisances for everybody else and us here. Because whilst we're taking in your unwanted puppies or kittens, we have other people out there with genuine needs. Perhaps they're sick or, somebody's died and they can't look after their pets. So those things are taking spaces in our shelter unnecessarily. So we try to explain this to them. I don't know if this answers your question. We try to give information because we don't want to keep having to, in effect, baby people. We want people to have the information, have the understand what love is, because people often say, oh, I love my dogs. And then I look at them and they're full of ticks and they're half-starved. Well, that's not my interpretation of love. So what do we mean by love? And that is such an important question that I'm asking people all the time. Love is not generally about getting. Love is about giving. And sometimes if you love something, you have to let it go if you want the best for it. You don't just keep it with you to suffer if that's what's happening. Perhaps you have to let some of your dogs go. And I had an example of that with a young woman only last week who had 7 dogs and she couldn't manage at all. And she was sad and she cried, but she surrendered 3 of the dogs to us, and we've got the other dogs neutered, and now she's in a much more manageable situation. We provided her with some medicine for the dogs because they all had terrible fleas and ticks, and these dogs were in the house with her sister and a young child. Not ideal. So we helped the people. We helped the people by sorting out the dog issue. So we want to empower people to be able to make good choices, sort themselves out if they're in a bit of a pickle, and to not get into that situation. And the most question that we ask people all the time is, why do you think you need a dog? When people come here to adopt, and sometimes people think that we are anti-people adopting. It's not that we're anti-people adopting, but why do you want it? Do you really want it? And will you be responsible for it for the rest of its life? Because when you take a puppy, as sad as it might sound, you have to think about how you're going to deal with it just before it dies. Are you really up for that? Are you up for the incontinence, the trips to the vets, all sorts of issues that it may have? If you are, then good. But that's what, when you take that little cute furry bundle, that's what you're committing to. So information, sharing information, getting people to understand. And at the end of the day, some people just don't want to know.
Love is definitely not about control, as you mentioned in your point earlier, but obviously there needs to be some guidelines. How do you feel about the support of the government in terms of policy and having legislation?
I understand how many things there is for the government to do. I probably don't understand, but I know that there is a massive amount of things involved in governing a country. But at the end of the day, all I can say is what we would benefit from, and we don't feel we have any support here. And there are a few things that I think could be done, not to ask a lot, that could make a massive difference. And not for the dogs and cats, for the people. We would be putting these things in place to help people, to either get them out of a mess that they're in or to stop them getting into a similar situation that affects either themselves or their neighbours and communities. So that's what we want the support for. If people have got 6 dogs, say, kept in an unhygienic way, and they won't listen to what we say because we don't come with a lot of backup, it's just usually me, and people they don't have to listen to me, and often they don't want to. But if we had something governmental that we could say, well, this is the law and this will happen if you don't, then it would make a difference. That would make a huge difference.
Karen, I've spoken to you on occasions before in terms of the dogs that you've sent over to Canada on more than one occasion, and coming out of some of those stories, people have been saying that there are bigger issues, that funds can be allocated otherwise. What do you say to those naysayers?
What do you mean? The fact that we spend money sending the dogs to Canada? Okay.
But that the funding can be used to help other human beings as opposed to animals.
Okay. Well, there's lots of people that can fundraise for a lot of causes to help any charity that you want. First of all, I would say to every single person out there, do something. Do something. Even if it's only helping your neighbour, do something. Because there's nothing worse than the naysayers who don't do anything. So, go and be a hospital visitor, whatever it is, do something. So we are obviously involved in and up beyond our neck with cats and dogs. We have done 3 charter flights, expensive charter flights to Canada. The last 2 were sponsored by MJet, which was very fortunate for us. If that hadn't been so, we wouldn't have been able to do them. The only reason we've done those flights, and we don't intend to do any more, it was never a choice to do them. It was either that or euthanize all of the dogs, because we get to a point where we absolutely can't fit in any more dogs. And as importantly, or perhaps more importantly, we can't fund it. The amount of money that it costs to run this shelter, we just can't do it. So the point of the last flight was because we had to reduce the headcount because we could not continue to find the money. I can't keep finding the money. We have no guaranteed funding. Obviously, there's no government funding. We have to every week, every day, every month pay all of these feed bills. We don't get anything for nothing. So the last charter was because we had come financially to a point where that we had 200 dogs. We just couldn't go on. So we sent a lot of dogs off on the plane, 204 actually. They weren't all ours, some were from other places. We sent some animal control dogs, 24 animal control dogs, I think. And since then, we have reduced the headcount by less than half. So in order to continue, and the reason we need to continue is because Barbados needs us to continue. The work out there is not done. If it was done, all of these dogs here, you can see if you look around how peaceful and happy and nice they are. They don't think this is a shelter, this is a spa. They're fine, they could stay here. The reason they have to go somewhere is because there's thousands of them out there that need our help and thousands of people out there. My phone is ringing all the time with people asking me to help them. So that's why we had to do it. And what other option is there? There are nowhere near enough homes available in Barbados because we have quite a strict adoption policy. So anybody that can adopt our dogs has to not keep them tied up, not keep them in boxes, have a secure garden where they can't escape because we have to practice what we preach. And we can't rescue all these dogs from one situation and put them into another. So we have a contract where people agree that they will abide by these things. So unfortunately in Barbados, not many people can comply. That's why we do the flights. And yes, you're right, it is a lot of money, and every single time that weighs on our mind. We know that. We know what else we could do with that money. But especially the last one in November last year, it was either euthanize the dogs or send a big lot off to Canada and reduce the headcount and try and continue.
You've mentioned that having a public education campaign would help Barbadians to become sensitized to the issue. Are you still at that point in thinking that would help?
I think the biggest thing is to try and get across a little change in attitude. As I mentioned, the normalization of what is actually abuse and neglect. We need that to people to see that and not be okay. So when people see a tied up skinny dog, when visitors come here and they see that, they are, I mean, I get so many messages from visitors to say, there's a dog tied up near where I'm staying, please can you go and let it go? They have no idea, what can I do? Or where can I put it? The person doesn't even want to let it go and I have no power to seize dogs. So we need the people of Barbados to see that and not tolerate it really, to them to be sensitized to it, to see these things. And sometimes when we feel bad, the whole point of feeling bad is for us to make a change. So I'm not trying to make everybody feel bad about what they do, but sometimes you have to feel something in order to make a change. It's like, I don't know about you, but if I do something not so good with my job, or if I sort of make a mistake, I feel bad. That bad feeling makes me not do it again. So that's the point of it, I think.
What does a public education campaign look like for you? Is it mass media involvement? Yeah. Is it the support of the government? Is it going into the primary schools and talking to young people about the importance of such a cause?
All of it. All of it. Absolutely all of it. It's not just the young people. Of course, I mean, we have children here on field trips as often as we possibly can, and that's great. But they are not the decision makers right now, and we have an issue right now. So it's fantastic that they experience this, but the trouble is that they go home often to an environment that is the opposite. And we are also very cognizant of what we're telling these children because we don't want to put them in a situation that makes them feel uncomfortable because they're children. So we can't tell them what is right or wrong. We need their parents to make some changes.
I'm also curious to know what keeps you going and committed to such a cause. Obviously, this is not an easy feat, not being funded by any external donors. So what keeps your hand to the plow, so to speak?
It's an excellent question. And you could ask it of any of the staff here as well, and our volunteers. It is so hard to keep going. But we do because, for me, I can only speak for myself. I keep going because, and it's personal, this is a personal question, so it's a personal answer. For me, it's important to me that things are just, and I don't like to see unnecessary suffering. So the fact that we have dogs and cats here, they could be camels. I'm not obsessed with dogs and cats. What I am, I suppose, perhaps obsessed with, if you want to use that word, is an unjust situation, which is unnecessary. There is unnecessary suffering. And when I go to some of the places that I go to, it's not just the dogs that makes me sad, it's some of the sadness that I find when I get there. That people are clearly struggling, that they can be physically, mentally, emotionally, miles away from any love or compassion. And I don't mean that they haven't got any, I mean that they're not getting any. They can be alone, struggling, and this is personal, so this is not, nobody else may feel this. In order to have a sense of love yourself, you have to give it. And it saddens me that I see that the people are not able to give it. This isn't everybody, but a lot of the cases that I go to, bearing in mind that I only get called to places where there's an issue. So the people are unable to love whatever that animal is. And they are okay with seeing it suffer. And that hurts me for them. Of course it hurts me for the dog, but generally I can fix that quite easily. I can give it some water, I can give it some food, I can maybe find it a home. What about them? I've taken the dog away, but they're still there. They haven't changed. And if they got another dog, chances are they'd do the same thing again. So that loveless way of being is what makes me sad and what I'd like to change in any little way. Somebody said that there's no such thing as darkness, there's just a lack of light. So if we can in any way shine a bit of light on some of these sadder aspects, and I don't want to come across either like some kind of missionary, because I'm not perfect, none of us are perfect, but the only answer to this is kindness. And I see such a lot of examples of unkindness that seems to have become normal. And I can't help but think that that exacerbates throughout society and manifests in other ways. So if we can't have respect, when I see this lack of respect, I'm touched by it and I would like to change that. That is what motivates me. But I don't know if that's an answer for everybody. Everybody, I guess, would be different. And I understand that that's a huge thing to want, but to want for the society to be kinder and more caring can't be a bad thing.
Most definitely not. I know you've also spoken of having government-funded euthanasia for some of these pets. Mm-hmm. What does that really and truly look like?
Yeah, this is an emotive subject because everybody thinks that, there's a happy ending for everything. But oftentimes we find ourselves, me again, because all the calls come to me, people may have an old dog, they don't want it anymore, which again goes back to what I was saying before, it's for life, it is actually for life, but I can't change the fact that I'm talking to a person who just wants to wash their hands of this dog now. And there's nothing I can do in this space and time to change their mind. So unless we go and get the dog and look after the dog or take the dog off them, they will say to me, well, I'll just take matters into my own hands then. And we have seen what that means. That means they either leave it there to die, probably in a very unpleasant way. Some of these dogs have tumours and things that are the size of footballs, not nice. Or they'll kill them. So they will poison them or throw them off a cliff or whatever. I won't go into it because it's not very pleasant. So often it's because if there was a simple solution, that I think people would take it. So if they could have somebody who would come to their home and humanely and legally euthanize the dog, it wouldn't suffer and we wouldn't have the inhumane aspects of disposing of the dogs going on. Mm-hmm.
So May is recognized as World Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'd like you to speak directly to our viewers in terms of the importance of supporting such a cause where the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary is concerned, and also the benefits of having an emotionally balanced pet.
Okay. It's scientifically proven that spending time in nature and with animals is good for your mental health and your physical health and your general well-being. That goes without saying. But you have to be able to be open to that. And that's what we want to give people a taste of here. Ocean Acres has always been a place. From inception, it was always the idea that this was a community place where people could come and enjoy this nice, peaceful surroundings in a busy world. You can turn off your phone and take some nice pictures with your phone, by all means, because that's very therapeutic. But a place where you can be amongst nature and with animals. Animals have a special way of communicating with us. But we need to open people up to this. And again, the people who are open to it will benefit tremendously. And we have people with all sorts of trauma come here, getting emotional support, people with PTSD, all sorts of things. But we also need people who have never thought of sitting down and petting a dog to be able to maybe give that a go and make a connection. These people may have dogs. One of the things I say many times when I'm doing community outreach and there's, say, a dog in a cage and it's just penned up, and I say, well, what is the purpose of this dog? There isn't one really. It's barely fed and there's no engagement with it. So they won't be getting any mental health benefits from that dog. The only mental health benefits or benefit we all get is from engagement, isn't it? It's from being, from living, from sharing experience, from enjoying the world, our planet, our surroundings, and respecting it. And when you can have a connection with an animal, it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to be a long-term one. It could just be a few seconds. But you can share with an animal, sometimes in a better way than you can share with people. And children, abused children in particular, are very good at doing that. They will open up their soul to an animal where they can't to a human being. Animals don't judge you. They don't care what you look like. They don't care how many limbs you've got or anything might be going on with your life. They're not interested. They're just with you in this present moment right now. And there is so much benefit in that. They give unconditionally. They don't expect anything back, and we could learn so much from it. I truly believe that the dogs that come here in the awful states that they're in, I believe that they are holding a mirror up to humanity. And when we look at them, we see ourselves reflected. And when we see those dogs in all their sad and awful state, this hurts me, because what I am seeing is not the dog, I'm seeing humanity, because that's what's allowed that to happen. The dog in its heart is pure and it will overcome it, or it may not. But what I see and the pain inflicted is like a mirror of humanity, and that I find hard personally again. So yes, there's mental health benefits to get, and the more people can engage and enjoy that, you have to experience it. It's not something I can tell you about. I can't tell you about that connection. You have to feel it. And in order to do that, you have to open your heart a little bit. And that might take a few stages for some people. But I would recommend to everybody to try it. Animals are not some dirty thing that need to be stuck outside and put in boxes. They all have a message for us, and they all have something to give us, and they ask for so little. So that's why it makes us feel good.
Thank you so much, Karen. So many important points made. It sounds almost poetic. We're going to take a short break. This is One on One.
Hi, my name is Malin. I am the owner of Kokoi Organics. I'm a vendor here in Oystins Bay Garden. I love Oystins. I love the vibe, I love the people, I love the music, I love everything about Oystins. But we have to keep it clean. So please use the bin. A clean country starts with me. A clean country starts with you.
Do you have a query, complaint, compliment, or just a simple suggestion relating to a government service? If you do, then the Citizen Services Contact Center, or CSCC, is here for you. What is it? As part of the government's commitment to providing citizen-centric governance, this initiative has been designed to make it more convenient for Barbadians to voice concerns, file complaints, and offer suggestions about government services, all from the comfort of their own homes. You can reach the Citizen Services Contact Center by telephone at 573-7373 or by email at messagegovt@barbados.gov.bb. You also have the choice to WhatsApp the center at 266-4242. The CSCC operates between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Again, the CSCC contacts are 573-7373 for calls, message govt@barbados.gov.bb for emails, and 266-4242 for WhatsApp.
Hello everyone, I am Lana Jones, the Local Marketing Officer for Cricket West Indies for the upcoming ICC Men's T20 World Cup. And I just want to say a special welcome to everybody who's going to be visiting us here in Barbados and of course experiencing the wonderful grounds here at Kensington Oval. We have made tremendous movement in terms of refurbishing the facility to welcome everybody, and I can't wait to experience such a historic event. So I just want to say a special good luck to all the teams that are participating in the tournament. And go West Indies. I'm West Indian, I'm a Bajan first. But yeah, special good luck to everybody who's going to be participating in this historic event. See you soon.
Keep it clean, keep it green. Barbadians, we invite you to get involved and play your part as we clean and green Barbados. Come into your community with media launches, bulk waste collection exercises, community engagement sessions, and giveaways. Get on board. Let's keep Barbados clean and green. Beautiful, beautiful Barbados.
Welcome back to 101. We're here in Newcastle, St. John with founder and CEO of the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary, Karen Whittaker. Karen, we're going to talk a bit about your personal life to some degree and moving here since 2003 from the UK. What would you say is the glue that has kept you involved after all of these years?
In terms of Barbados or in terms of the work of Ocean Acres?
The work of Ocean Acres.
Well, I've only been involved with Ocean Acres since 2020, which was a surprise to me. I didn't know that I was going to be doing anything like this. This wasn't on my plan at all. So sometimes life has surprises in store for you. And the thing that keeps us going is the fact that there's still work out there to do. Sometimes people say to me, how do you do it or why do you do it? And I just say, well, because it needs to be done. Like many people, I suppose, I didn't know how much needed to be done until I started in 2020 here with Ocean Acres. I was aware of what had been going on and the different shelters and what have you in Barbados. And I've always been involved with animals all my life. And since I came to Barbados, I did notice, the first thing I noticed, there was lots of dead dogs and cats on the road that had been knocked down by cars. And I also noticed that there always seemed to be some available for me to pick up. So I would, in my own little way, always be rehoming dogs and cats and taking them to the vet or what have you. But I didn't ever, in my wildest dreams, envisage that we would do this. When we first took over, there was 45 dogs and 69 cats. And the original idea was just to find homes for those cats and then for this to be a sanctuary as such for people and animals. And as we've talked about, a shared space that people can come to and enjoy and educational. But what very quickly became apparent is that the more we did and the more we opened up and the more we, I suppose, exposed ourselves, more and more people needed help. And it's been like a crescendo ever since. So we're still here and we're still doing it because there's still work that needs to be done. I come promise you all that I am not some crazy workaholic person that wants to do 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for no money. I am not. I could very easily sit in my chair and read a nice book and watch some TV. I would stop. But there's so much that needs to be done. We don't make it, it comes to us. So that's what keeps us going. How can we stop when there's still things that need to be done?
What are you most proud of since you've started in 2020, some 4 years ago?
The difference that we've made, the lives that we've changed for the animals and for the people. I have to say it's easier to change animals' lives than people's lives. They're much more cooperative. They respond to good ideas a whole lot quicker and better. They go, oh, this is a good idea. This makes sense. I'll be here. Yeah, we've had some amazing stories, and we've changed the lives of so many. I think one of the things I'm quite proud of, if you like, is the fact that we've had a surprising reach in terms of we have a network in many countries, all at this very moment as we're talking now, who are helping and working towards helping Barbados. We have people in the UK who are gathering together the travel kennels that we use to send the dogs overseas, who are working with travellers who are coming here on holiday to bring these back to us. We have a whole back and forward system going on there. We have a whole amazing team in Canada who are always helping us to take the dogs when they possibly can. Without that, I don't know what we would do. We have people in the US who are working towards coming over here and helping us in terms of spay and neuter and in terms of community outreach, educating people, training dogs. So just little us here in this small paddock has managed from St. John in Barbados to reach out all over the world and have all these people doing stuff. Sometimes that amazes me.
So you have been penetrating the darkness, so to speak, and you have been able to change the mindsets of others, of human beings. Even though your focus are animals or cats and dogs, you're still managing to penetrate the darkness.
Yeah, our focus isn't the cats and dogs. They're just like collateral damage. It's a bit like a war zone. They're what come in. But our focus is on changing what's making them come in. And it's amazing that our network of support that is helping to do all of this, a big part of it is overseas. I never knew that that would happen or work out that way. So we have a tremendous amount of support from overseas. We have volunteers here, but we could do with some more. We could do with Barbadian people embracing this. There's lots of things that local people could do to help their communities, but it means that you have to give. You have to give. You've got to do it. It's no good thinking about it. And I get lots of messages saying, oh, I'd love to help, but it's no good. Helping, doing, giving, making a difference takes an effort. When I go home at night, I have to start a whole new set of work because I'm here most days. And the admin and organisation that goes into this is huge. I don't want to do it. I want to go to bed, watch TV, have a cup of tea, whatever. But I have to go and sit down there at my desk and work because things don't happen unless you do it. So I would just say to anybody, if you want to make a difference, actually just do it. Just do something and you will feel good, because the best cure for any kind of malaise, whatever it's from, is to do something for somebody else or something else. Just do something. And all these people out there who are already doing things for us, you know who you are, and thank you, and keep doing it.
Would you say the work that you're doing also ties into the climate change agenda, or is there any link to your mind in terms of your work within animal advocacy and also the fact that the world is going through a general change in terms of climate?
It's the same message. It's the same message that causes a lot of and I know that the climate change is huge and massive and complex, but it's the same message, isn't it? Because our choices that we make in regard to respect for the planet, our own homes, ourselves, how we do things, how we live, whether we drop litter or not, what kind of products we use in our garden, what toxins and poisons we allow to be used on our behalf, they're choices that we can make. It's the same choices, it's the same mindset, it's coming from exactly the same place. There's no different, we're just making choices about animals' lives. Which, again, if you make a bad choice about dropping litter or garbage, and I have to say I've learned a lot about where garbage and litter and things have dropped in Barbados as I've been going about my business, because the same place they dump every manner of things out of people's houses, they also dump their dogs in the same places. So I have seen it all. I've been in bushes, behind down cliffs, all sorts of places. There's known dumping sites, and that's where the dogs are too. It is not pretty. So those choices, they're just dumping the dogs out with the garbage, just the same. You shouldn't be dumping your old fridge or your bed or anything in that field, and you shouldn't be dumping your dog either. So that can only be, I would always like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm struggling to come up with an excuse, really. I guess people don't want to make the extra effort with their garbage, I'm talking about, to go to the dump or something, or I don't know. But so it is connected. It's about making good choices. It's about living cleanly, kindly, and not making issues for other people.
What is your meter of hope like in terms of us achieving that goal of reducing the population of stray and abandoned dogs? What is your meter of hope like in terms of policy being passed regarding animal abuse?
I can't see why it can't be done. I'm a doer. I do things. If I see something that needs doing, I don't say, oh, well, that needs doing, I'll do it. I do it now. Whatever it is. That's, I think, how I get so much done. So I'm not sure why it needs to take so long. I'm sure that ministers can tell me why it needs to take so long. But that's a matter for them, really. I am sure that I have made suggestions of certain things that can be done to improve certain aspects of things that, in my opinion, could be done overnight. Certain changes within departments, particularly within animal control, that could certainly do with some help. The people trying to manage animal control, which is government run, struggle because there are controls in place that cause things to be a certain way. That could change. I don't see why the things that I've suggested couldn't be implemented straight away. So there's simple things. I think what I would like them to do is take the quick fixes that we've put forward and go with them. Things could be, we could have some exemptions for fees that we have to make. For instance, the spay and neuter people that want to come from the US. It's an organisation that goes to all Caribbean islands. They would come multiple times throughout the year, but we are back and forth because there are fees due to them if they come to Barbados due to the government. That isn't the case in other islands. So, of course, they don't come. They go to other islands where they can go and help. So things like that could be waived and we would make progress quicker. So what I would say is let's do the quick fixes, sort out the things that we could do that will make a difference quickly. And if we do those, we've already seen a big change. There's much more awareness out there. Things are changing. The fact that you're here today is change. In 5 years, it could look completely different, but only if we start now. It's no good if we start next year. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep talking about it because honestly, I know I've only been in Barbados 20 years, but that's a long time. I know people who have been here either their whole lives or longer than me, who perhaps weren't from Barbados, and people who've been born in Barbados. And everybody tells me the same thing. There's always been this same problem. So whatever is being done, I'm referring to the dogs and cats now specifically, but whatever is being done, it's not working, is it? It's not worked. So only the new things now, if you can't keep doing the same thing and expect something to happen. The worst thing for me would be if in 10 years time, if you're back here and we're having this same discussion, I'm giving up. I will have given up.
Fair enough.
We have to have something different. We have to do something different. We have to tackle it intelligently. You can't just expect it to change on its own. A few small fixes and let us do our work. And let's get this turned around quickly to the benefit of everybody, because the work that we do here with these dogs touches so many different ministries within Barbados. Tourism, finance, education, health. You could just, it's hard to find one that it doesn't touch. Mm-hmm. So let's just sort it out. We'll do it. We just need a little bit of help here and there and some things, more things cleared out of our way.
Would you say the issue that Barbados is facing regarding this overpopulation of dogs and cats and the strays, is it an isolated issue? Is it a Caribbean issue? Are you also seeing this in the UK where you're from?
The lack of spaying and neutering is particularly prevalent here, more so than the UK.
In the Caribbean?
Yes. I'm not so familiar with other islands. I know a little bit, but I couldn't really speak for them. But there is a lack of uptake, definitely, for the number of reasons. And they are mainly people can't afford it, people have no transport, people don't want to do it for their own beliefs, whatever they may be, and people just haven't given it a thought. They don't think it matters until they have a litter of puppies and then they want to pad them off somewhere.
If you had the capacity now and the power to make a change right now to reduce the population of stray dogs in Barbados, if you've had the ear to the, say, Prime Minister, what would you do immediately within the next 12 months to try to fix the situation?
Spay and neuter. Spay and neuter. And it's hard to say just one thing because we need education, and education means basically telling people that they can't just let their dogs wander about. Because if they let their dogs wander about, they will always get poisoned, get run over, mate. And even when we do spay and neuter dogs, for instance, we did some community dogs a few months ago, 5 dogs that we organised and got them all spayed and neutered. Lovely, all good, we sorted it all out, but they were poisoned a week later. So that was a waste of everybody's time. So if you don't keep your dogs locked up, there's no point in us spaying and neutering them because they'll probably be dead next week anyway. And if you think about it, if you think how many dogs are dying unnecessarily and how many packs of dogs, there's pack attacks all the time. So think how many dogs are dying all the time that needn't. Think how many there actually are, because there's already thousands too many. And that's with all these ones dying. I mean, the puppies barely survive the litters and there's still thousands of them. So even people will say, oh, just let it be natural, you know, let them die and they all balance. It doesn't balance itself out because humans, again, have interfered. And this is a small island. These are all our dogs. We can't keep up with it. The natural, oh, just let it die thing doesn't work. So people need to have some information and some consequences. The same as has happened in many things. In terms of, like, for instance, when we wanted to stop people smoking in certain places, they had to be told. And if they didn't comply, if they didn't think that was a good enough idea to just not do that, then there were consequences. It needs to be a similar sort of thing to change the behaviour of the people for whom education is not enough. So once you've told them and you're telling people something sensible that makes sense for the benefit of the greater good and everybody else, if they don't get that, then that's antisocial behaviour, isn't it? So there needs to be a consequence for antisocial behaviour, because people say to me, the thing I hear all the time is, this is Barbados, I can do what I want. That's not a good advert.
What's your vision like for the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary for, say, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? Where do you see the organisation going?
I would love for us to, and this may be a fantasy, to get to a point where we are not constantly feeling bad because we know how long our waiting list is. Because that makes us feel bad, because we know there's people and animals that need help. So I would like the pressure for that to be less, and that would come from the 2 things that we've said before: people behaving better, making better choices, and the spaying and neutering. So I'd like to, once we are not under all this pressure all the time to take in more dogs, more dogs, more dogs, where are we going to put them? Once we're not under that pressure, then we can revert to some of the very important things that were in my initial plans of what we'd like to do before we got bamboozled and knocked back by the tidal wave of animals, which is, again, to specialise in some areas where we can do therapy for particular groups of people with specific issues that animals particularly can help. And that can be some mental health things, it can be some physical things, to make this more of a resource for Barbados, which it is, but we could make that better, and for the wider Caribbean, because let's not forget, once we've sorted Barbados out, there is the wider Caribbean, because I know that there's issues out there. So it would be fantastic if we could become the leading light in this, and we could get Barbados as a, you know, the star, if you like, of how we've done it. It's been done in other countries. It is possible. So we could do it, and then we could show other people. They could come here, they could visit, we could have conferences or whatever that might look like in order to spread what we've managed to do. And just think that if we got to that point, how much awareness and kindness more would be out there in the community. Because it all is circular, and I'm sorry if I keep jumping from one thing to the other, but the abuse is all connected. So until we change that underlying thing, the family abuse, the domestic abuse, it's all part and parcel of the same thing. The dogs are used as control. Sometimes I have children who will call me up and say, come quick, daddy's beating mummy and he's hurting the cat. Not nice calls to take. I don't even know who that child is. And sometimes people call me and they want me to take a dog, but they say, you can't take the dog because if you take the dog, he'll hit the child or he'll hit me. It's all linked. It's all linked. So we can't ignore it. I can't solve all of these issues, but I know that encouraging kindness, care and compassion and having an empathy have got to be a way forward. You've got to start. We can't just not do anything, surely.
Are you giving any more consideration to sending another flight with dogs or cats in the near future?
No.
And how successful would you rate those two experiences that you've had in terms of
The big
shipping
push.
them over to Canada?
The big push. This was our third in last year in November. It's incredibly successful, but it's a huge amount of work, you know. Logistically, the amount of people that work on that for nothing, we all volunteer, and it's people overseas who I'm working with who, if you think that they are doing that for Barbados and for Barbadian people, and the people here probably don't even realise that people they've never met in another country are staying up nights with me on 2 o'clock in the morning on Zoom calls talking about dogs and where we can put them and who can take them, because all of the dogs, when they get off that plane, they go into a home. The dogs don't go into shelters. So we have to place them like foster children with families. So we have to know about every dog. Does it like cats? Does it like other dogs? Is it nice with kids? What kind of food does it eat? For every single dog has to have a successful placement in a home, and that is overseen by the coordinators in Canada. And all those people are doing all that work for the people of Barbados. And I bet people don't even know how much is done. But it doesn't end there, because those are the charter flights that we've done. But on an ongoing basis, we have our travel buddy program for dogs and cats, where kind visitors to Barbados, or people who are traveling from Barbados to Canada, can take a dog with them. And Air Canada kindly sometimes allow us waivers, not all the time, but sometimes, so it doesn't cost anything. So last year, apart from the 204 dogs that we sent on the charter, we sent 199 dogs with individual travellers.
What does this support mean to you? You've had the support of MJEC, silent donors. There must be some measure of hope or feeling of hope within your heart that there are also these persons helping to spread light and penetrate the darkness, so to speak, as you said.
Absolutely, it means the world, and I hope they